Let us look at a real transaction. A billionaire walks into a dealership and buys a Gulfstream jet for $25 million. He flies it for 5 years. He feels like the king of the world. Eventually, he decides to upgrade. He sells the jet for $12 million, but during those 5 years in the sky, he spent $15 million just to keep that metal tube legally allowed to leave the ground. His total cost for owning this asset was $28 million. He flew exactly 500 hours. If you do the math, every single time this brilliant business mind sat in that leather seat, it cost him $56,000 an hour. This is the ultimate mystery of private aviation. We are talking about the smartest, most predatory capitalists on Earth. People who will fire 1,000 employees to save 0.5% on a quarterly earnings report. Yet they willingly walk right into a financial slaughterhouse. Why? Because a private jet is not a vehicle. It is a mid-size corporation disguised as a vehicle. It is a system designed to legally siphon wealth from billionaires into a hidden shadow economy. And once you see who is actually pulling the strings, you will never look at private wealth the exact same way. You already know cars lose value. You drive a luxury sedan off the lot, and it loses 20% of its worth. But a jet is entirely different. A jet can lose $5 million in value while sitting perfectly still in a locked garage. How? Because in the world of private aviation, the metal does not actually matter. The paperwork matters. This is a concept called logbook terrorism. Every single screw, wire, and bolt on an aircraft is tracked in a physical set of maintenance logbooks. If a jet owner loses just one of these logbooks, the plane instantly loses up to 30% of its resale value. Imagine buying a mansion, but if you lose the original receipt for the kitchen sink, the house is suddenly worth millions less. The industry weaponizes this exact vulnerability during a process called the pre-buy inspection. When a billionaire wants to sell their jet, the new buyer hires an inspector for $100,000 to comb through the plane. The inspector is not looking for safety issues. They are looking for leverage. They might find a microscopic spot of corrosion on a wing rib. It does not affect how the plane flies. It is completely harmless. But the inspector flags it. Suddenly, the jet has damage stigma. If a catering truck lightly taps the wing on the tarmac, the physical repair might only cost $20,000. But the stigma of that repair being written in the logbook will wipe $2 million off the asking price. The seller is instantly trapped. They have to write a massive check to fix an irrelevant problem just to close the deal. The smartest investors in the world get hustled by basic paperwork. But the initial purchase is just the cover charge. The real financial bleed has not even started yet. Why does a plane that has not flown in 2 entire years still cost $2 million a year to maintain? Because of the midnight rule. Aviation authorities enforce something called life-limited parts. This means parts do not expire because they wear out. They expire because a clock strikes midnight. You could have a titanium landing gear that has only been used 5 times. It looks brand new. It functions perfectly. But if the calendar hits the 10-year mark, federal law mandates you must throw that part in the trash and buy a new one for $4 million. You are forced to replace perfection just to stay legal. Then you meet the engine mafia. Jet engines are so catastrophically expensive to repair that owners cannot risk paying out of pocket. If a turbine blade cracks, it bankrupts the budget. So the manufacturers created a brilliant trap: the power by the hour subscription. Owners pay companies like Rolls-Royce an hourly fee. It is essentially an insurance policy. Every single hour that engine spins, the billionaire pays $1,000. But here is the catch. You have to pay minimums even if the plane never moves. You pay $150,000 a year for 2 elite pilots to sit in their living rooms playing video games just in case you want to fly. You pay $10,000 a month to park the plane in a heated hangar. You pay the engine manufacturers their minimum monthly ransom. Imagine buying a brand new Ferrari, but Ferrari forces you to pay them $50 every time the piston fires. And if you leave it in the garage, they bill you anyway. The plane is legally extorting the owner while sitting completely still. Eventually, the billionaire looks at the bleeding balance sheet and tries to act like a smart businessman. They think they have found a cheat code. They tell their accountant they will just rent the jet out for charter flights when they are not using it. They will become the Airbnb of the sky. This is the exact moment they accelerate their own financial ruin. Every new owner fundamentally misunderstands how planes age. Jets do not age by miles flown. They age by pressurization. Every single time a jet takes off and lands, the metal tube expands and contracts. This is called a cycle. Let us say the owner lets a wealthy bachelor party charter the jet for a quick trip to Las Vegas. The owner makes $25,000 in gross revenue. They feel like a genius. But that short flight burned a cycle. The owner just pushed the fuselage one step closer to a mandatory multi-million-dollar structural teardown. The wear and tear outpaces the charter revenue every single time. The owner did not actually make money. They took out a payday loan against their own landing gear. They traded the structural integrity of a $25 million asset for absolute pocket change. The charter myth is completely destroyed. But the plane is still flying. The owner is still losing tens of millions. So who exactly is cashing all these checks? A billionaire does not manage their own aircraft. They hire an aircraft management company. The company charges a modest flat fee of maybe $5,000 a month. It seems perfectly reasonable. But they do not make their millions on the flat fee, they make it in the shadows. These companies negotiate massive fleet discounts on jet fuel. They buy fuel for $3 a gallon. But when they send the monthly invoice to the billionaire, they charge the retail price of $6 a gallon. They pocket the massive spread on thousands of gallons a week. They do this for maintenance kickbacks. They do this for pilot training margins. The management company legally skims 30% of the operational budget right under the nose of the owner's accountant. Then the jet lands at the airport. Private jets do not use commercial terminals. They use fixed-base operators. These are private terminals that operate as unregulated local monopolies. You literally cannot land at an airport without dealing with them. The fixed-base operator knows you are trapped, so they force you to buy their fuel at a massive markup. The commercial airlines 100 feet away are paying wholesale prices. The billionaire is paying a 400% premium. If the billionaire refuses to buy the inflated fuel, the private terminal uses a weapon called the ramp fee. They will charge the owner $2,000 just for letting the rubber tires touch their concrete. They hold the jet hostage until the ransom is paid. The managers, the pilots, the fuel trucks, and the private terminals are all working together in a massive, uncoordinated cartel. They are quietly draining the wealth of the smartest executives on the planet. If owning a jet is a financial scam, if it is legalized extortion, if the owners are losing tens of millions of dollars entirely by design, we have to ask the ultimate question: why do Wall Street titans still buy them? People will tell you it is because time is money. Bypassing airport security saves a few hours. That is the public excuse. The reality is much darker. A private jet is not a time machine. It is an unregulated, untrackable boardroom. It is an instrument of corporate warfare. Consider how modern finance works. Information is the only currency that matters. Hedge funds use advanced software to track private jet transponders around the clock. They know exactly which tail numbers belong to which corporations. If the CEO of a massive oil company quietly flies into Omaha, Nebraska to meet with Warren Buffett, the commercial flight manifest would never show it. But the transponder does. Billions of dollars will shift in the stock market the very next morning before a single press release is ever typed. Billionaires know this. So they use private jets to execute hostile takeovers, lobby powerful politicians, and maneuver capital in total secrecy. They will fly to a tiny regional airport in the middle of nowhere just to have a 2-hour meeting in the back of the cabin with a rival CEO. No hidden microphones, no reporters, no paper trail. They can close a merger that changes the global economy, shake hands, and be back in the sky before the local town even knows they landed. When you understand this, the math completely flips. The $28 million lost on the jet is totally irrelevant. It is a rounding error. Because the total privacy that Jet provided allowed the CEO to close a $4 billion acquisition without tipping off the market. It is not a transportation cost. It is a tactical warfare expense. The next time you see a sleek white jet sitting on a runway, do not look at it as a symbol of luxury. Look at what it actually is. You are looking at a hyper-efficient wealth redistribution system. The private aviation industry does not sell transportation. It sells an ego trip to the ultra-wealthy. The billionaire is just funding a shadow economy. They pay the mechanics. They pay the fuel mafias. They pay the engine cartels. And they pay the brokers. They absorb millions in engineered losses, all for one specific privilege. The privilege of weaponizing the sky. The ultimate luxury in this world is not leather seats. It is not caviar. The ultimate luxury is escaping the rules that govern the rest of us.